I'm really excited about being here and about this particular topic because it's near and dear to my heart in a lot of different ways. So I, of course, have a boss, and I've been a boss, and I am a boss. So I really want this. There's a relationship here that we kind of take for granted sometimes, and it's important. So how to manage your boss, especially if you are new to the industry, right? This is your first job, your mid career, you're at the later stages of your career, but you're really wanting to make a jump, or you're going from industry to industry. You are still probably going to have someone who you report to in some way, shape, or form. And so this is key and it's crucial. So I'm really excited to be the person to bring you a couple of different steps that I know that I've used that actually really work for me. Take a couple of good notes, ask some questions, and let's just talk about it. So you guys know who I am. I'll just go through this a little briefly because a person is a myriad of a lot of different things. So I'm an engineer, I'm a speaker, I'm a podcast host, I'm newly an author. I do all the things as it relates to STEM and tech, and especially around women and women of color because that's my group. I'm a Black woman engineer, so I really want to help us reproduce ourselves and get more women in general into tech and STEM careers. But I'm also focused mainly on women of color because there's such a dearth of us. So um, here's where to find me. If you're looking for me, these are places you can find me. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter as the Nerdy STEM Queen, and so on and so forth. But let's get it moving. Okay, so this is about how you manage up because that's the thing, right? You want to manage up. Your boss is the person who supervises you, who manages you, who gives you direction and is giving you projects and all those kinds of things. So how do you manage up? So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is do a self check first. And what that means is to really try to figure out what your purpose is, right? Where are you going? What are your goals? What are the things you're trying to accomplish? In 6 months, I want to fill in the blank for yourself there. In a year, I want to have certifications. I want to have traveled. I want to do training. I want to have completed 2 projects. I want to, so you need to figure out what your motivation is for being in the job that you are currently in. I think that that's a good first step about how you approach your boss and how you approach your job in general is to know your own motivation. Is it just to get your foot in the door? Well, then what does that look like? What does getting your foot in the door really, really mean? So you got to be clear about what's happening inside your internal motivations. What is your intrinsic reason for being at this place, at this job, doing this particular thing? And so that to me means that you have clarity about who you are and what you're doing in that space. The second thing that I think is really, really, really important is to know your boss's expectations. This is the thing that I think gets overlooked probably more than anything else. And I'm going to talk to you about a couple of things that I think are also overlooked in this relationship that you're having with your boss. If you have to know his or her motivations, what are his goals? What are his or her goals? What are the things that they're trying to accomplish? What's next? Maybe they want to move to senior manager. Maybe they want to go become their own CEO. Maybe they want to move to XYZ. And so then that sort of gives you it once you know those things, it gives you the opportunity to really think about how you can help that person, if you're so inclined to do so, make sure that they're meeting their expectations. And how does that help you? Of course, because you already know what your expectations are. And then you need to set your own expectations. So if these are his or hers, then here are mine, right? So in regard to that. And so I think that this helps. It's a level setting thing. So you understand their motivations, you understand their expectations, you also understand that you should ask what their expectations are of you. Because this is the thing that we sort of assume, oh, well, the job description says I'll be responsible for XYZ 1, 2, 3. Well, what exactly do those things look like in his or her mind, right? What does that mean? Am I turning in a report every week? Does that mean, do we do a check-in monthly? Does that mean, what does it mean? So be very clear in expressing and in asking those questions with your boss, because we can't really just assume that he's going to tell us, right? Be forthright as we might think. So ask those questions, um, and then of course I go back to always set your expectations and make sure that he or she knows what those expectations are as well. I think it's clear. I think it's for you to be clear and honest about what you're trying to do there. Okay, so reverse the golden rules. This is the third thing. Reverse the golden rule says, so the golden rule says treat others as you would want to be treated. Okay, everybody knows the golden rule. We've lived by it. It's the thing that we know to do, right? Well, reversing the golden rule says treat people the way they want to be treated. Okay? And so I always use this example when I was a dean at our local community college here. We A person was retiring. And generally, when a person retired, you gave them this big party, and there was this sort of send off. You brought their family in, and there was balloons, and there was cake, and there was all of that. Well, I had a faculty member who I knew that was not what that just it just wasn't who he was, and so he put in his paperwork for retirement. And I went and asked him. I said, well, we can, what is it you want? Like, we do want to honor you. Your service to the college has been tremendous, and we want to make sure that we send you into a retirement in a way that honors who you are. And he looked at me and he was like, Dr. A, I don't want a party. I don't want to party. He was like, what you can do is you can use those funds that you were going to use on that party. Hey, give us a ticket or plane ticket to, wherever it is we want to go. And I will pack up my office and I will be gone. That's all I want. He's like, I don't need a party. I said, okay, I respect that. I get that. And I'm glad I asked before we did this thing that you would not have appreciated. So we ended up getting him a ticket, an open ticket where he could choose where he and his family went. And that's how that happened. So you have to know that, hey, everybody doesn't like the things that you like. They're not going to react to the things the way you would react. So you got to treat people the way they want to be treated. And I think that's also key, to having a really good relationship with your boss. If he knows and she knows that you respect them, that you respect the way they think or the way what they believe, even though you may not agree, and it goes against something that maybe you believe in, but you can respect that they have a difference of opinion. I think that will really help you in moving things forward and in managing your boss. Okay, so communication here is this is really important, and this is, of course, everybody's like, yes, I talk to my boss all the time, but this is more than just, hey, how you doing today, and talking about, the kids. It's for me, it's like, how does he or she receive information? Okay, so let's talk about that. So some people are more verbal than others. Some people like written communication. Some people are a hybrid mix of things. Like, let's just do something as simple as, hey, are you a caller or are you a texter, right? So you would think that it's like, okay, what does it matter? But for some people, it's about how they receive and can take in information. For me, I would rather you text me than call me. I honestly, I will look at the phone, I will know it's you calling, and I will not pick up. It's just, I don't want to talk to you. I will text with you though. So if you send me a text, hey, we're gonna go with this happens, and maybe it is one of those conversations where you say, hey, we need to talk about this. I need to call you. If you send me a text with that message, then I will call you. So you need to know for your boss, how best to communicate with him. Now, if you are having a contentious relationship with your boss, communication is absolutely key. And I would suggest that you go into this idea or into the idea of communication thinking two ways. One, verbal or texting, or what are the other ways that they communicate best. But I would back everything else, every bit of communication you have with him or her up with a text. I mean, not with a text, with an email. Um, because I really believe that it is important that you you have a record of every single piece of your communication. So you go back to your desk, you've had a communication, he or she have said, XYZ 123 is due on the 15th or whatever, the budget is XYZ. I would put it in an email, say, per the conversation, earlier conversation, or however you want to word that. We will be working on project XYZ. It'll be due on the 15th, and there's a budget of XYZ, right? So that you both are clear that this is what occurred, and then ask for any clarification in writing to what you have given to him or her. That way, there's a record of what has occurred, right? And so I think that's a way for you to cover yourself and for him or her to actually cover themselves. So that the communication becomes even more clear between the two of you. So the other thing, the fifth thing is about be intentional about relationship building. Because again, this whole thing that we've been talking about managing up, about managing your boss, is about having a relationship. So this is the part that I think people forget. Is like every interaction you have with a person, you are building some type of rapport, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, with them. And rapport leads to a relationship, whether that's good or bad or indifferent. And it also leads to people having certain beliefs about you, whether those are false or real or imagined. Um, but this is, if you are intentional about the relationship that you are having with your boss, and you are upfront with your expectations, your communication methods, your you know yourself well enough, the relationship will develop, and you guys will probably be better able to work together because you have been intentional about the relationship, um, with him or her. And so I think that there are a few other things that I want to talk about, but the last thing is you must do check-ins with him or her about your performance. Hey, are you meeting the expectations, the goals that were set for you? And not just the ones that were written down on your evaluation, your 6 months check-in, your year review. We're talking about, have you met your expectations as a team member, or as his subordinate, or however you want to think about that. So you need to do check-ins, and whether, again, whether that's a text check-in, whether that's an email check-in, you need to do the check-in. And unfortunately, for a lot of us these days, those check-ins are often initiated by the employee instead of the boss. But you still need to make sure that you are doing those things. Again, this is about being intentional about that relationship. And sometimes, even in our personal relationships, there's someone in that relationship that is the driver, right? That's the I like to call it, the person is the relationship keeper, right? You in this instant are the relationship keeper. And with that role means that there are things that you have to do, and this is one of them, is being the one to do the check-ins. So there's a few other things that I really want to make sure that we discuss when in terms of making sure that you are managing your boss, in the right way. I really want you to make sure that you, make sure that your boss knows that what you're. I want to stress this. They know that you are off the clock at certain times. That you can't really give them all of your life, right? They need to know up front that, hey, on Thursday I take a swim class that starts at 6:30, so I need to be out of the office by 5:45 if I'm going to make that class. I don't think that is too much for you to be able to ask your boss or tell your boss. Like, you have a life outside of here. I clock out at this point. My hours are this to this. I think that those are, you need to, again, those are part of your clear expectations about what it is you're doing, right? You have a life. And so once your boss knows that there are boundaries, I think that there's a respect level there. They know that you're not, that you're not that person that's just going to live for this job. You have a life outside of that. I think that that also shows, I think that's also a strength, in particular for women, because we don't often do that. We try to make arrangements. We'll find someone to pick up our kids. We'll rearrange our out of office life to accommodate our boss's requests sometimes. And there are sometimes where a no is just a no. Um, I'm going to do this because this is for my own self care. This is for my own health. This is what I want to do outside of here, and you have every right to that. So um, don't think don't think that it makes you less of an employee or less of a group member or a teammate for you to be able to say, nah, I can't make that. And I actually think it makes you a strong leader and a strong teammate when you do those things. And so managing your boss is all about relationship building, and we must be intentional about doing so. So I want to reiterate that um, being able to manage your boss means being able to first manage yourself, knowing what your own expectations are, knowing what your own beliefs are, knowing what your own future goals are as it relates to the role that you currently play and at the company that you are currently working for. It's also about knowing what your boss's expectations are for you and what his or her expectations are for himself. It's also about setting expectations for you on the team or in his employ, but you also is setting expectations so he knows up front that these are the boundary levels. Be intentional about um, treating him or her the way they want to be treated, and have the expectations that he or she will do the same. I think those are the final things that I would like to say, and I hope that you guys have a couple of questions for me. And say I really thank you for your time. Here's where to find me again if you're looking for me. You type in hashtag the nerdy STEM queen. All of my posts should come up. um, and I really enjoyed talking with you guys today. Thank you.